Hey everybody, your friendly GM Bobby here. Just wanted to set up the third and final part of the interview that I did with the Arcology podcast. In this one, we talk about some general kind of role-playing game topics like how to accomplish storytelling and the role and philosophy of GMing and whatnot. It's an interesting conversation and ends the whole conversation nicely. I hope you guys enjoy it.
Maybe this goes against me being a role player, I don't know, but I'd be content to probably throw like one die roll a whole night and stay in character and just shoot the Drek with everybody in character. I would be perfectly content to that for 4 hours.
That doesn't go against anything about you being I mean, seriously, I truly believe that that a role-playing game is a cooperative, storytelling endeavor. And it's not just the game master constructing a world to tell a story. It's the players are intimately involved in this process.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree.
That definitely lines up with my game mastering philosophy.
And maybe that's why you do such a good job, is you've kind of like, maybe I haven't hit that point yet where I just kind of like just let it wash over me, like
Yeah, I try to avoid having control as much as possible. Rather, I don't shy away from control, but I guess I don't go in that direction. I try to be like let things happen as naturally as they're going to happen.
Well, a lot of times we'll be in the middle of just, shooting the breeze in character, and you'll let us go for a while, and then you'll say, "Oh, by the way, this horrible thing happens right now." And okay.
Say horrible, I say interesting and fun.
How much do you rely on the players then to do your job, so to speak?
It's a trade secret, but I'd say lots. I feel as a GM, player when you're playing in a role playing game, players are expecting the game master to give them a direction and get things going. So I try to find a balance between giving them that spur to, hey, here's something interesting that might make for, something for your characters to do. I try to balance between that and trying to get them to lead the story.
That brings up an interesting question. Have you ever been in the situation where you have a bunch of players? Excuse me. When you have a bunch of players who you're dropping that kind of catalyst, like you're talking about, like here's an event or here's a thing, and you want them to all react to it and then take that and run, right? Mm-hmm. But have you ever been in the situation where you drop the thing and all they do is just react to it and then you're waiting?
That happens all the time with our Lone Star campaign.
Yes.
Well, how do you
there's
deal with
a lot
that?
of quiet chunks of time that are edited out, makes things seem like they flow very well with the Lone Star game. But that one, I think a big part of that is we're playing a non-standard setting, and it took quite a while for us to all get used to how things were going to go.
Right.
For the most part, I don't really have that problem because we have awesome players.
Right.
If it falls flat, that's one thing, and that's not what I would want. But as a game master, there's often this reflex of, hey, I've got this cool idea for this story or arc or something fun that might be fun to tell or bring out in these events, and I want to make sure that my player characters do this.
Right.
I like to avoid that mentality as much as possible. I've run campaigns where it's been a little bit more like, hey, this big thing's happening almost no matter what the players do. Mm-hmm. And they're there to witness this cool story happening. And that's never been anywhere near as fun as the times where I kind of kick back and let the players lead the story wherever they choose to take it. And oftentimes I may have an idea of like, hey, this is the mysterious event that's going on. And these are the things that the players are going to see and do and react to, and then they interpret it completely differently in a way that's incredibly unexpected. And I, in my brain, then will retcon what is actually going on behind the scenes to more closely fit what they're doing, but still not exactly, because, you don't want to make it obvious that you're letting them do your job for you.
to give a little context to the question I'm about to ask, obviously a role-playing game like Shadowrun, in fact, especially Shadowrun, is there's rules, right? And it's about the rules too, right? But how much does storytelling and whatnot, how much does that play a part, and how important is that, do you think, as opposed to the rules?
I could toss the rules out the window personally, but I'm also not running the game. So
Right.
And there's only one thing, and that's the rule set that's going to keep me from, well, I get to do this and I get to do that and that and that and that because I'm awesome.
Right.
I think the rules in Shadowrun, I mean, there are game systems that are designed more for just more free-flowing. The rules just get out of the way. You roll a dice when you have to. Things like Fate, where it almost doesn't matter that you have dice around.
Yeah.
Shadowrun, the rules it's a very crunchy system. It's not completely on an extreme to that regard, but it's definitely on that side of the fence. And I think in Shadowrun, it allows you to exert a certain amount of creativity that you might not otherwise come up with. Where if you could say, yeah, I hack the thing because I'm cool at hacking, and so I'm tapping that aspect and rolling my dice, which I don't not meaning to criticize Fate. It's an awesome system.
Sure.
But in Shadowrun, knowing that, okay, I could take a simple action to do this, and with this amount of marks, I can do an edit file action, which then allows me to loop this camera, but I have to make sure that I save a complex action each round to keep that going. So when the next camera comes up, I've got to do this. Just knowing, I guess having that system makes it all feel more real, and then there are things that you know that you need to do or can do. I guess having such a rich, deep rule system that is very complex, I guess helps bring the world to life more fully.
Right.
And guides you as far as what courses of actions you might take.
The crunchy rule system of Shadowrun creates a sort of framework for creativity. That's a really interesting way to think about it.
Yeah. You might think that having unlimited possibilities is the ideal environment for creativity, but as an artist, I can tell you it's not. It's in many ways the antithesis of creativity. It's a recipe for paralysis. As a musician, I have lots of software for creating and editing and making music, and I have access to quite literally tens of thousands of potential sounds that I could use.
Sure.
And if I just sit down at the computer and go, okay, let's start going through these sounds till I find one that I like, I'd never get anything done. What I have to do to actually get any work done on the music is to start imposing limitations.
Right. That's so. I'd never thought about it that way, but you're...
The one thought that came to me while you were talking about the rules, and you have to remember to save a complex action for this and save a simple action for that. I don't know if they redesigned the rule set specifically this way when they came up with 5th edition, but they've got that tagline that everything has a price. And it's absolutely true. And the one thing that I have the biggest trouble with anytime I play is I don't have enough actions to get everything done that I want to get done now. So what has to be sacrificed in order to get stuff done now? And how many turns out do I have to go to get everything I want to get done?
Right.
And what am I going to give up by making it stretch out that far? Like, I have to observe in detail right now. I just have to in order to see that thing that I can't see. And who's going to suffer because I took a moment to scan things over instead of mana-balling those guys with a recklessly spellcast something. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I know exactly what you mean.
And I guess I wanted to come around to, or just revisit a question you'd asked about killing off player characters.
Yeah.
I have to say, in Shadowrun 5th edition, that onus is no longer on the Gamemaster. As a GM, you cannot kill player characters unless that player wants to allow their character to die.
Well, explain what you mean by that.
Okay, yeah. In the rules, you have this stat called Edge, and you can permanently burn a point of Edge to not die from something. You might still be frightened up. Yeah. You're not necessarily still in the action, but it's the choice of whether or not the character dies is in the player's hands. So when a particular I don't want to spoil things too much if people are jumping earlier on in our actual place, but when a particular character decided to throw a grenade at some police that had guns trained on him as an attempt to try to scare them away, and then got shot in the face and killed, I didn't kill the character. That character could have continued on, but the player chose not to burn an edge and allow his character to die, and he brought in a different character.
That's an excellent point. Edge is a powerful tool in that way, and I find that's a problem that I have as a GM. I find myself being too easy on players, and I think that's a piece of advice that I could take myself and other game masters could take, is that don't be easy on your players. They have so many tools to stay alive.
Regardless of what your players tell you, they actually do want you to run their characters to the meat grinder.
I don't remember who I heard say this. It was on one of you guys's, either your podcast or Critical Glitch or something like that. I heard somebody say at some point something that really stuck in my mind, which was, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, here, but the idea was that you don't remember the times when you don't remember the runs where everything went right.
Yeah.
You remember the runs where you barely made it out alive.
Exactly. That's a very good point.
I wanted to get from you. You've been talking a lot about, your philosophy about GMing or things like that. But what do you see, Mr. Johnson? From your perspective, what is the role of the Game Master, in particular in Shadowrun, but in just games in general?
Well, it's different for different people. I talk about my philosophy of game mastering and the way I do things, and I don't want to give the impression that I think that's the only way to do things right or well.
Sure.
But for me, I guess I see as the role of the Game Master is you're there to present the world and the setting and events to the players, but you're also then there to react to them, allow them their freedom to do what they're going to do, and beat the dreck out of them with the consequences of their actions. And then, just make things, I guess, interesting and fun and challenging. I want to make this game as interesting and complex as possible. And it's the hardest thing to do as a GM. Well, one of the hardest things for me as a GM is getting these moral quandaries where you're putting them in a situation where they have to choose one way or another, or maybe a third option they can think of. But in all cases, there's something to consider beyond, can they roll enough hits?
Mm-hmm.
And in many ways, too, I'd like to involve their characters' personal lives as much as possible, because that's an interesting part of them. It helps to bring them to life. But when we have something where Maverick has to go run off and help his brother, and his niece happens to be there, or Frank the Ghoul, who just came to life out of
I love that. I think I heard you say before that was just like, it just came out of nowhere, right? Frank the Ghoul?
Most of the things that are the coolest in the story have just happened somehow. They weren't things I had written down. Maybe I wrote some things down later, but yeah, a lot of the I guess, coming back to the idea of the storytelling, as a game master, I don't see myself as a storyteller. The story, like meaning in life, is something that you look back on as something that grew out of what happened.
Right.
And I might pull then threads that seem particularly vibrant or interesting and do more with them, and just let other ones die because they fell flat and weren't very interesting. But I'm not really there to tell the story. I'm there to share in the spontaneous creation of the story.
Right. There's so many times I find myself, especially more recently, getting kind of annoyed when sometimes I have players that feel like this is my game, and they're just like I'll ask for input or something like that, between sessions, and they're like, oh, whatever. I mean, it's your game. You do what you want. And I get so annoyed at that, this isn't my game. Like this is our game here. I'm playing in a lot of ways just as much as you are. So then, Vox, let me ask you. So do you see yourself? Obviously, Mr. Johnson sees you and your fellow players as the primary storytellers. Do you see it that way too?
I do, yeah. And I don't know if it's just as a side effect of having, played for so long with Cliff as a game master, but yeah, I think so. I mean, we've all got, as long as the players have personal goals, we seek them out, we react to certain things in the unique ways that only our characters can.
Right.
And exactly, just he throws consequences at us, and we react to those in unhealthy ways. And
sometimes it's hard to get a run in.
It is hard to get a run in sometimes. That's what I was saying. I'd be perfectly content to just freak out in character for 4 hours, and that's fun.
Well, I mean, how many episodes of the actual play did you guys spend, putting together the cannery,
Oh gosh, and it was a bunch of time on the forum too. I mean, we had a map, we had lists. Yeah,
right. That's what I mean. And those were such interesting episodes, and you guys were creating stuff out of that. That's really, really good.
Yeah, and I'll drop a little bit of foreshadowing. It's no longer called the cannery. It's referred to as the cattery.
Oh, well, now I am really interested.
And probably confused. It'll all make sense.
So, it's been really great talking to you guys. I appreciate so much you coming and talking to me, and I hope you had fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks so much for inviting us. It's our first ever video interview.
What? Right. This is Vox and Mr. Johnson. They're at the Arcology Podcast. Check them out. I assume that you can download their podcast anywhere podcasts can be downloaded?
Yep.
Probably.
All right. Probably. If not, go to let me know where they can reach you personally and Arcology Podcast. Go ahead and plug anything that you want to plug real fast. Sure.
You can reach us on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. We're Arcology Podcast on all of those. Or our website is arcologypodcast.com. And the email is contact@arcologypodcast.com. There's also a contact form on the website.
Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed all the conversation that I had with the Arcology Podcast. It was a lot of fun. If you want to see more of the stuff that we do here, go ahead and click the subscribe button. Give me likes and send this over to your friends. Share it with people. Also, consider becoming a patron over at patreon.com/complexaction. It's every little bit helps support me. I also have some cool thank you rewards like custom-made dice and prints of my GM screen drawings and special access to have your Ask Bobby questions that I do get priority. So consider doing that for me. Every little bit helps. And if you want to see more interviews, then give me some suggestions in the comments. Give me some feedback. Let me know if you like this and who else you'd like me to talk to, especially in the Shadowrun community. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Bye-bye.